a wheel of life can really help to get more perspective and getting them started on reflecting on something and to have a starting point of inspiration.
Yeah, it was maybe admitting that this fun and recreation part is so low. I put it here on a 4 because that's simply where it is, if I'm honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these days I would say I really enjoy the career and business part, and that is also fun. Like, I work with people I really enjoy working with. So maybe I could even say I'm okay with the amount of fun in my life, but not so much with the amount of actual recreation.
I'll make it as a coach, light the spark inside, empower every soul to turn the tide. I'll make it as a coach, help others grow, changing lives with every story I know.
Welcome to the Making of a Coach. I'm Tobi from metaFox, and on today's episode, I continue my conversation with Ebony Fagbuyi. On last week's episode, we explored her making of story, her career, and how she works with coaching providers. Today, we continue and get a very hands-on with Ebony's actual coaching practice. We dive into one of her most fundamental tools, the Wheel of Life. Instead of simply talking about it, being a strong believer in show, don't tell, we'll actually run a small demo. To make this very plastic and easy to follow, we'll also show the actual Wheel of Life on video. So even if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcast, you can pull out your phone towards the middle of the episode, check the video, so you have a good idea of what we are talking about.
So with my clients, there are many tools, and one very common tool is the Wheel of Life. The Wheel of Life is something that I give to my clients if we need something that the client can find areas where he or she wants to work within. So maybe if they're not really clear of where they stand in life or how things are, then a Wheel of Life can really help to get more perspective and getting them started on reflecting on something and to have a starting point of inspiration. And yeah, that's what we have prepared for today.
Yeah, awesome. So I basically stepped into the shoes of your client as a leader at metaFox, and I received from you a video where you briefed me on what is it that I'm doing here, how does the Wheel of Life look like, and a short how-to sheet where you introduced me to the concept. I'm just sharing my screen here. I put both of that on the board so we can see it's a small introductory sheet, nicely branded with your logo. Would you quickly like to lead us through here?
Yes, sure. So I use this written template, and we would have a session. And then I would suggest how about, we fill out this tool, which is a Wheel of Life. It gives an overview, so and so. And then I would share this document. And what we see here is an example of a filled out Wheel of Life. So the Wheel of Life is, as you can see, it's a circle that is divided in different sections. And these sections would just describe different areas of life. So that could be health and recreation, significant other in love, finances, career or business development. So basically, I have named them already. However, the client is always free to choose their own sections if they feel like, for instance, spirituality doesn't really fit and they would like to have something else, then they could put something else there. And then you see the different colors just to highlight the different sections a little bit more. It can be in one color, obviously. Each section has rings. So the outer ring is the scale of a 10 point, and the inner part is the 0 point. And then it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4 until 10 to the outer edge of the ring, so that one can evaluate themselves in a specific area on a scale from 0 or 1 to 10 of where they feel or sense or think that they are in life. So there can be a lot of realization happening just by illustrating my own life in a visual like that.
Yeah, great. So I received this template over here. So it's also a A4 PDF that you sent me. It's in landscape format. And then I simply filled the standard categories. We have health and fitness, fun and recreation, career and business, personal growth, love and significant other, spirituality, finance, and relationships. And after watching your video and reading your introductory sheet, I simply put that here and took maybe 15 minutes and reflect a bit, like, how am I doing in that area? And just for me as mental notes, I guess if we worked offline together, I might have done that in a journal or an extra sheet of paper.
Yeah. So everyone can see or hear now that the wheel of life doesn't take long. So even with the client, they are thinking, is that a big task or something? It is really something to quickly reflect. And then as a coach, you can take it to the next level the way you like. And you can do it inside a coaching session, like filling it out together and giving the client the time. The way I like to do it is I give it lovingly said as a homework. So I say, okay, here is the tool and provide it to them. And then they do it in their spare time whenever they really feel ready to do it, to have the time, space, and environment to fill it out.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. So should we actually hop into our roles as coach and client now and do a little demo?
Yeah. Let's do this, Tobi. So yeah, now that we have your completed wheel of life, and let's explore what the insights are there for you and it reveals to you.
Yeah, so filling this out came relatively easy. And as you can see, I used colors. I think I started with career and business. That sort of came most easily to think of. And then I worked through kind of counterclockwise. Career and business, I'm in a very good spot right now. It's exciting times with our metaFox team, I would say, growing up and evolving. I was able to step a bit out of my operational involvement in many areas, which also enables me to hop into new projects. So I'm sort of back into founder, business developer shoes. And that's great. So kind of, I was thinking, yeah, that's easily a 9 or 10. But actually at second thought, I also realized I'm spread a bit too thinly across multiple projects because, of course, yeah, with that, now I have more time. This time very quickly filled up. And the transition also takes a bit longer than I dreamed of. Yeah, but it's still, I would say, one of my highest scoring areas. And with this podcast, but also working with a new business partner, potentially doing a more service, leadership consulting sort of a business, I learned a lot about myself also. We recently ran a development center where I discovered, inner flexibility is an area of development for myself that I'm working on. And I would also say there, I'm really enjoying the personal growth options that I get through. Should I just go through the areas or how would you like to do this?
Well, as you like, we can also explore the whole wheel. Like, for instance, what is the first thing that stood out to you as you look at the whole wheel?
Yeah, when I now look at it, I would say the lower part is where I'm really doing well. Also in my personal life, lots of growth. And yeah, as it is so often with these quadrants being nicely filled up, it is sort of the other ones that suffer a bit. And I think that's also quite clearly visible. The fun and recreation, as well as the relationships and friends part. And to some extent also the health and fitness part, I think that is falling more short than I would love to.
Were there any confirmation or surprises for you as you were filling this out?
Yeah, it was maybe admitting that this fun and recreation part is so low. So where did I think I put it here on a 4. Because that's simply where it is, if I'm honest with myself. And I think these days, I would say I really enjoy the career and business part. And that is also fun. Like, I work with people I really enjoy working with. So maybe I could even say I'm okay with the amount of fun in my life, but not so much with the amount of actual recreation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strong realization here. Was that surprising to you or more of a confirmation that you knew that?
Yeah, I guess it's a long-term theme of sorts. In that sense, it's not very surprising, but seeing it here sort of yellow on white makes it a bit more drastic. Yeah.
Uh, what other patterns or themes did you notice?
When I was looking at the relationships, friends and family quadrant, I have, I think, a good community of friends here in Cologne. I also came to enjoy more, like rather a lower number of people, but a more deep relationship.
Where would you say are the influencing factors in the way that these show up for you? You had some correlations already. Where would you say are the influencing factors?
If I look at the amount of time I get to spend with my family, and when I say family, I mean now like my mom, my sisters, then that correlates, of course, with the location we are living. And there, I would say my wife and her job takes priority, sort of. That's why we live in North Rhine-Westphalia in Western Germany. And it is also basically the high level that I get to, or the high score that I gave myself in love and significant others, that kind of takes from the relationship quadrant in some way there.
So it's taken away from it?
Yeah. And I think the same could be said for career and business versus fun and recreation.
All right. What would you think others would see in your wheel of life that you have not considered?
Mm. I guess overall, I'm happy with the scores, or I guess it's a bit a sense of where do you put the scale, but I would say overall, for me, the scales are as high as they realistically can be. So I would say it looks good to me if I'm trying to look at it from the outside. Of course, it also has a bit this, yeah, I'm not sure. Would they say this is a sort of a workaholic or kind of, but I'm not sure. I mean, the highest score I gave myself in love and significant other.
Wow. The question here is like, what is the wheel that you are ideally wanting to have? So if there were a blueprint for your next level, so to say, what would you like to change or keep?
I think it would be great to make more room for fun and recreation, and maybe at the same time the health and fitness. So getting more in that routine of meeting friends to do sports that we used to have actually, and that died down a bit at the moment, because that would address all these three areas of development, like the recreation part, the health part, and the relationships part.
What would be a small shift that could create the most impact then?
Yeah. Agreeing with those three friends that I used to go bouldering, to kind of agree on a day, say, let's say Monday, we really go, and that's sort of the default day. So changing that from a opt-in, texting, hey, let's go bouldering tomorrow, to a opt-out, hey, I cannot this week, sort of. Yeah, I think that would be one concrete action.
How would that change the area? What would you say?
If I managed to really make that happen, it would bring me up here in the fun and recreation, and also in the friends and family fields.
Comes up to you when you look at this framework?
Yeah, it seems more balanced in a way. When I think about it, what makes me a bit hesitant or less enthusiastic is that, it's also adding another thing. I'm wondering if it's the right strategy to kind of add more to my schedule to bring those fields up, or if it's more the removing something down here that would actually truthfully bring me up there. So basically rather cutting down or getting some more focus in the career and business area in order to simply make more room for the recreation. Not by adding more things in there, but actually by simply creating space for nothing. I also felt a bit this another thing response.
When I look at you and you're holding up here and like seems like okay, it's making it tighter in that sense, like there's something lying on your chest. What would bring relief?
Yeah, I guess a stronger focus in the career and business area, like saying, okay, these are all the things that we could do, and now this quarter or this year, it's not the time for that. So, or saying, okay, Denise, or insert metaFox team member, this is your project and I hand this over to you. Maybe we can do a call every 2 weeks on it, but not more. I really need to step out of that. And by doing so, basically by narrowing down a bit the variety in the career and business quadrant, I could make more room for the yellow fun and recreation area.
And how does this new room feel?
Spacious. So I think that's where my hesitation was coming from with that bouldering idea. It sort of squeezes in another thing in the available space rather than creating more open space.
Yeah, I could see you readjusting as well. It's like I'm feeling like on the duo standing like this, and then you say like feel spacious. So as we coming to a close of our session for the review so far, what would you say would be now a good move forward, and how would you hold yourself accountable?
We did an exercise that is actually sort of similar to the Wheel of Life not so long ago, which was basically filling up my week with activities and saying, okay, what are my main activities right now? And I think that could be a way how I could visualize that for myself and hold myself accountable in a way to also withdraw a bit from certain things. I think that is something I could do for myself easily on a monthly basis, maybe.
Okay. Just imagine with me 6 months from now, you have done all that and it looks exactly like that. What comes to mind? How do you feel?
Yeah. There is this spaciousness and more room for family, I would say. I think that is sort of what I see on the horizon. And yeah, which would basically make more room. If I look at the Wheel of Life here, bring up the right side of the friends and family, spirituality. Those aspects is something that I think there would be more room for these areas to grow.
Okay. Well, then thank you so much for that. And I wish you all the best with creating the room and the space that you want so that family and friends, they have place to fill the space for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah, thanks so much. Let's take a step back from our client and coach shoes. Would you say that is how a conversation could also go for you in the real world?
It's quite similar of how it would happen in real life. What would be a little bit different is that I shorten it a little bit according to the flow, obviously, on how it's going. So a Wheel of Life debrief can take much longer than the time we had. However, it was, I would say, a general ending of, okay, I have something to move forward. How does that feel? Not just think. So there are different levels of creating a plan. What popped up first when you were filling all this out, so that they had the time to really go through. Well, I know and I acknowledge that not every coach has the time for it, because you might have a session of 30 minutes, you might have a session of 45 minutes or an hour. So that might differentiate, and we just move here. As I like to be expansive and transformative in a way where we have the time to explore, to go deeper, it takes more time.
But actually picking what is it that is surprising? What is there that we can see, learn here? And then I also noticed that at some point I was really in my head, approaching this as a very cognitive task. And it was really a game changer when you basically invited me to step back actually from the tool, from the visual, and connect with my body. This question of, okay, how does that feel? Yeah, and bringing in that theme of spaciousness. I think that is really what I take away, and what really added lots of value here. I think actually when it was that you stepped away from the tool and pulled me more towards myself, actually, that was, I think, a key moment for me.
Thanks for sharing. That is how a Wheel of Life looks like. I hope it gives a lot of inspiration also for coaches who want to use the Wheel of Life. As you could see, and as we discussed, there are many ways that this can go. You can actually pull it back in the next session, and you can have this as an anchor as you are leading a client through a coaching session. It can be supportive to reflect, supportive in terms of having something to always anchor or come back to. But it can also be just a starting point, and then put it aside and maybe bring it back at the end to measure, because it has scales, right? So you can nicely also measure, like, how has this changed over time? You started here, let's explore again. So you have a tool that you can use this way.
So trying to paraphrase, it means maybe in that session it comes up, okay, there actually is a bigger theme around, in my example now, making time for recreation. Where does that time or that space come from? And that could be something that we then work on.
Yes.
And possibly go back to another, like a not filled Wheel of Life template after 3 months, and then check in, okay, how would you fill it now? What have we moved the needle?
Right. Yeah. And that is, I think, for coaches who have their own practice, it can really be helpful in that sense, because it gives you a measurement tool as well. We talked about these coaching service providers that, they have coaches and they do coaching. So when I step in, I actually not so much need this, because the company does that for me. The client already fills out, this is my focus area, this is where I stand. We have a scale in the app. So they fill it out. So it looks different, but it's somehow a similar approach, but I don't have to do that with the client.
So that means when you work with the coaching service provider, the clients already do some sort of onboarding, and as part of that onboarding, fill a Wheel of Life survey, which then immediately gives you something to work with. Or how does that look like compared to the Wheel of Life here?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure behind the scenes what they actually fill out, but what I see as a coach is that they already have, filled out a survey. These are my 3 focus areas, for instance. These are the goals that in between these focus areas I'm wanting to approach.
Mm-hmm. So there is sort of a dashboard, like visualizing, okay, this is where we arrive, or how we progress. And that can be a Wheel of Life or something else. But also, let's say I am now a coach and I want to choose the Wheel of Life. This is the progress that we made.
Yeah, right.
Amazing. Thanks so much for this little tour in the mini coaching session. You would still like to say about this tool or the work with tools like these?
Well, what I would like to say with tools is, depending on who is listening and where they're coming from, maybe do not get too much concerned about having a lot of tools. Start with 1, 2, 3 tools that you feel good about, work with them, be comfortable with them, and then progress there, because your main tool is coaching.
Yeah. It's the presence and the ability to help the client to connect with themselves. In this, literally in my case also today. And the tool is just the entry point to it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. And have fun with the wheel of life. Shall you use it?
This was our second episode with Ebony Fagbuyi. And it might not have been the first time that you hear about the wheel of life, but maybe it still gave you a new perspective or a small refresher. If you say, yeah, let me actually pull this out again, you can find plenty of templates online and very soon also on metaFox.eu/wheel-of-life. There you can download a PDF, or if you like to also add your own logo, access a Canva template. If you want to connect with Ebony, go to ebonyfagbuyi.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend or leave us a rating. That would help us a lot. I'm Tobi from metaFox. This was The Making of a Coach. And on our next episode, we'll meet a new coach. It's only a week away. All the best until then. Bye bye.